Hello everyone, my name is Henry and I'm from www.elliottwave-forecast.com. In this video, we are going to take a look at the dollar index or the dollar direction in the long term, and we will be using this pair called US dollar PLN. Okay, so US dollar PLN is currency from Poland Zloty. And you can see that if you overlay US dollar PLN, which is at the top here, with the dollar index, which is at the bottom, this is the weekly chart, you could see that the two instruments are almost more or less the same, right? You can see they are nearly identical in terms of the oscillation and the direction. And so if we could sort of forecast the one, okay, if we can sort of forecast one instrument with a greater certainty, we can extrapolate the findings and then also can say the same thing with the other instrument. All right, so we are going to use the PLN to be able to give you guys the most likely path in the long term, okay, for the dollar index. All right, so let's take a look here what we have. All right, and then we're also gonna take a look at the cycle in the US dollars again to kind of rank which one is the most likely scenario for the dollar group. Okay, so let's start with the idea that the PLN, okay, the Poland Zloty, it breaks this 2008 trend line. So the channel support from 2008 has been broken decisively. All right, so you can see that the structure is a little bit different than the dollar index. You can see that in the case of the dollar index, this 2008 is not broken and currently finding support from 2011. But over here we have a little bit of a different structure in the PLN. Again, they are slightly different, but overall they are the same in terms of the oscillation. Now, when you have a 10-year support channel that is broken, okay, more likely than not, probability is saying that you need to correct this cycle over here. You need to correct the rally from 2008. The question is whether this correction that you saw in the past year in the dollar, right? So you can see the dollar has been weak in the past year or so. Same case with the dollar index, and only recently in the past 2 months rallying, right? Only in the past 2 months rallying. So the question is whether this correction or this pullback to correct 2008 is already done, or whether this is only the first leg of the correction at least, right? Now let me go a little bit farther here. So this is the PLN chart as far back as 1998. We don't have any data here before 1998, at least in the platform here. Now you can have a couple of different scenarios, right? You could see that it from 2000 it has declined, and then it has rallied all the way to 2016. It is almost retesting this high, and then it breaks this 2008. So again, the question is, if you're bullish the dollar, is the dollar really able gonna do this and then breaks 2001, or at the least we need to see further correction to correct 2008, and therefore we need to at some point go lower again. So that's the question, if you're bullish or you're bearish, right? Now let's take a look at the US dollar cycle analysis and then try to again give a rank, which one is more likely, which one is less likely, and so on. This is the dollar index cycle analysis from 1968. Now you can see that this index follows this what I call a 15-year cycle. Right, every 15 years or so on average, you can see the peak in the dollar index, more or less, since 1969. Okay, and then within this 15 years, average peak to peak, you have around I would say evenly divided around on average, right? 7 years down cycle and 7 years, 7.5 years down cycle, 7.5 years up cycle. Okay, so 7.5 years where dollar index is weak or dollar is weak, and then 7.5 years where dollar is strong, and then repeat it, right? Weak again, strong again, weak again, strong again. Now, if this cycle or this pattern is going to be followed, which basically what we think is the higher probability that the dollar index is going to follow this cycle. And so what does that tell us? That tells us that at 2017, the dollar index could have already ended, you know, the last 15-year peak-to-peak cycle here in 2017. And so if that is the case, we're going to have 7.5 years down cycle if it is again going to repeat this cycle, right? So instead of dollar index going to go to new high, all right, then that suggests that the dollar is going to have a multi-year downtrend in the next, starting from 2017. If you add around 7.5 years, you got 2024, 2025 as your next you know, low in the dollar index or in the dollars, right? So based on this cycle analysis, there is an argument to be made that yes, we saw strength in the US dollars in the past 2 months, but over the long run, it looks like we could still be in the multi-year downtrend. Okay, so if you go with this idea that US dollars is in the multi-year downtrend, that suggests that the past 2 months strength in the US dollar is nothing more than a correction. And that is also supported by this idea. Now, if you do think that this 10-year channel is important in the PLN, that means that once it breaks this 2008 cycle, that suggests that this is probably only a correction of this entire move, and then we're gonna have another leg lower again, right? We're gonna have another leg lower again. So if this is gonna have another leg lower again in the PLN, that means the US dollar index also should be doing the same thing and do another leg lower, right? Because they are, again, they are correlated pretty well. You can see that they are more or less identical. Okay, so we got I'm ranking around 4 scenarios, okay, and then ranking them in terms of which one is more likely and which one is less likely. So this is scenario number 1, which is probably the most likely. Okay, so the most likely scenario is that again you have let me show it here. So you have a zigzag from this July 2008 low, EBC, and you end that zigzag in 2016, and then from here you have another flat A, B, and then C, right? You have another flat ABC one, and then the C leg is 5 waves, and then you see a correction to correct this flat. Now scenario number 1 is this correction that we see, which is the, you know, the strength in the US dollars in the past 2 months, has ended. So this cycle has ended as a zigzag ABC, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna see correction of this cycle, this ABC. So we're gonna see a correction, a 3 waves pullback, and then after that we can have another leg higher, okay, to continue the correction of the past year or so when the US dollar has been selling, right? So once you see, so if you look at this higher time frame, the first scenario, which is sort of the, we rank it as the most likely, is going to be doing something like this, right? You can see it's kind of retesting that trend line now, that broken trend line, rejected, and we can see a correction now, and then after that possibility of another leg higher, again to finish this 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to retest again this trend line more or less, before finally it turns lower. Okay, so if this is the probably the most likely scenario, if this is going to happen, then again, because we correlate this with the dollar index, we can see that dollar index is going to pull back. So dollar index ending this cycle, pull back, one more leg, and then after that the decline resumes, or the weaknesses is going to continue, right? So because this is a 1 year downtrend here, so this entire thing, it could take 6 months, right? I mean, if it is half of this, it could take 6 months, and we are only 2 months, so it can take a while here for this correction to play out before the US dollars continue the weaknesses. All right, so that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is going to be the idea that we are not going to do a double correct. So we are not going to do this and this before turning lower, but instead we have ended the whole entire correction in the dollar group, and then PLN, which is the top, is going to continue lower from there, going to new low. And if that's the case, the dollar index from here is going to go to new low, right? Because again, they are well correlated. So PLN can go to new low, dollar index can go to new low from here, resume the weaknesses. Remember, based on what we talked about earlier, there is a good argument to be made that we are in a multi-year downtrend within the US dollar group here. So that's scenario number two. Okay, if that's the case, then you can see that instead of doing this in the PLN is just gonna do this. All right, and then scenario number three is going to be the fact that this is a flat. Okay, it is a flat in the PLN over there. So in the scenario number three, you have the PLN. This pullback is not going to be a lot. I mean, it's not going to be a deep pullback here, and then it's going to do one more push higher to finish AP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? A flat from this low, and then continues lower from there. If that's the case, then the dollar index is going to be the same thing. Okay, we can do a flat from here, A, B, 1, 2, 3, and then you see a minimal pullback in the dollar index, and then one more push higher. So you can have AP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it turns lower from there. Okay, so that's the flat over there. So if you take a look here in the weekly chart, again, a flat is going to mean that PLN needs to be moving, I mean, doing one more push higher to finish a flat AP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then turns lower. All right, so again, this is ranked in the what we think is which one is most likely, which one is less likely. So scenario number one is doing a double, which is could be the most likely. Number two is it goes directly lower. All right, and then three is going to be a flat, okay, which is going to have one more push higher before turning lower. And then scenario number four, which is the least likely, is a bullish US dollars, right? In a bullish US dollar scenario, you have PLN from July 2008 to over here to 2016 January ending with W as a zigzag, and then you end with X pullback as a flat here. And then if this in this count, you will have US dollar in or US dollar PLN already starting the next leg higher to new high. If this is going to be the one happening, then the dollar index is going to go to new high from here, right? So this is scenario number four. Now again, if we combine the idea that this 15-year cycle, this 2017 looks like a peak in this 15 years, and then we could see a multi-year downtrend. So if we combine this idea here with the fact that the dollar PLN breaks a 10-year channel, it looks like, the more likely scenario is that instead of US dollar becoming very bullish, the more likely scenario is that And this strength that we saw in the dollar index in the past 2 months is just a correction of the multi-year downtrend move in the dollar index. Okay, so when can we expect the next leg of weakness is then based on this idea of the three scenarios. Scenario number one, doing a double correction before the weaknesses resumes. Scenario number two, the weaknesses can already start. Scenario number three, it is doing a flat, which means that we should see limited pullback followed by more strength in the US dollars before the decline or the weaknesses resume. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this analysis, and we do this kind of analysis every single day in the live trading room, and also live session, and giving you possible setup as well. So if you enjoy this analysis, you can take our 14 days trial. Okay, and you can check our services. You can also take currently we have a 30% promotion. You can also take advantage of that as well. So see you guys again next time.